Please welcome the athletes to the field of play for the compound mixed team bronze medal match.
So time to step up the pace here in the team competitions on compound Saturday. We move on to the bronze medal match in the compound mixed team competition. One male, one female archer on each side going for the last spot on the podium. It's Mexico versus Italy.
Number 1, representing Mexico,
1号靶位墨西哥队
Andrea Becerra, Miguel Becerra. On target number 2, representing Italy,
2号靶位意大利队
Elisa Roner, Elia Freña. The line judge for this matchup is
起射线裁判
Rupeshka.
So there we have it, Mexico taking on Italy for the bronze medal. A brother-sister pairing of Andrea and Miguel Becerra, world number 8 and world number 5 respectively, taking on the Italian pair of Elisa Rona and Elia Freñan. I'm reluctant to say it, you mentioned Cursor the commentator a little bit earlier on, but we're seeing a little bit of Rona these days, aren't we?
Yeah, she did really well in Antalya, and well, she is here again. I mean, shooting really well, and she had a great indoor season as well. So, I mean, she's definitely out there right now.
Right at the top of her game, but it will be the Mexicans and Miguel Becerra to get this bronze medal match underway.
10.
His shots often look a bit panicky or like really quick and yeah, a bit rough at times, but I think that's just his style of shooting.
9.
9
Now on the line, Elia Freñan, or I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I think he went to Nanjing to the Youth Olympics as a recurve archer, and then switched to compound soon after.
It's certainly a slower but a very deliberate process from Elisa.
Yeah, it just looked like a really calm but controlled shot that she made there.
10.
And this is where we're seeing the same Miguel that we saw last year, I feel, where he had a great season and really, you know, shot a lot of really high scores. And this is just like the same determination and the same convincing style of shooting that we saw back then. I think I just spotted a Olympic tattoo on the forearm of Elia, so I guess I'm talking about the right person.
9.
9
So matched in scores. Interesting point though, switching disciplines, because they are two different disciplines. And it's not just the difference in distance, there's different equipment. How often do you see an archer switching one way or t'other?
Well, the Sil Pato, who we saw in the previous match, he used to shoot recurve, never at an international level, but he was a recurve archer until he tried compound just for fun and realized, hey, I'm actually quite good at this and I really enjoy shooting this bow. So then he switched to compound. I think you see that more than the other way around. your former analyst, Nicky Hunt, was actually very good at both disciplines. So it does exist.
战胜了印度尼西亚队。在 S&P 比赛中，
Is there I know that Compound has recently, the World Archery have certainly put in a bid for Compound to appear at the Olympic Games, but is there a tendency that most archers, when they start, are thinking about recurve, or do equal numbers go into Compound as well?
It is a bit cheaper to start with a recurve bow. So I used to work in an archery shop, and getting a good quality recurve setup to start with is like half the price of getting a good quality compound setup to start with. So that is something to consider, because in compound you need to also buy a release aid, you need to buy a scope if you want to do it properly. The bow itself is typically a little bit more expensive, so for most clubs, and also just it's easier, and I don't want to say recurve archery is easier, but it's easier to start with recurve archery, because if you do something wrong with your bow, it doesn't necessarily break, whereas if you shoot a compound bow without an arrow in it, there's a very high likelihood that either the strings or the cams or the limbs will break. So there's a couple things there to take into consideration. So I think that's why most countries and most people start off with a recurve, because it's a bit easier to get into. But then there's also a lot of people who look at a compound bow and think, that's the coolest one, that's the one I want. So there might be a shift in that regard.
There certainly could be a shift towards compound archery with the recent bid from World Archery to have a compound event at the Olympic Games. It will be different to recurve, shooting 70 meters outdoors, as we will see here in Shanghai tomorrow. But the compound at the Olympic Games won't be what we're seeing right now. The bid has been for an indoor version, shooting at just 18 meters.
Bit of a grimace there on her face when she released that arrow. Wasn't too happy with that. So something, maybe we'll get a good camera angle of this, but something I want to point out about Elisa is that she, typically you want to hold your bow in a relaxed manner, but you can see Elisa really pinches her bow, like she grips her bow, which isn't necessarily the best way to do it for most people, because you can really alter the shot with that. Having a relaxed bow hand and using a finger sling can mean that your bow just jumps straight out of the hand and you don't alter the shot, or you don't like do anything to the flight of the arrow. I think what Elisa is doing is she's gripping the bow so that she can still have a little bit of an effect on the shot when the release goes off. So there's a bit of a different approach there, but it's definitely not the standard way to do it.
Interesting point. You talk about anchor positions as well in archery. I mean, could she potentially be using that as a stability thing?
It could well be, although more muscle tension typically doesn't make your aiming movement better, because aiming is a movement, contrary to popular belief. Some people want to have their sight as still as possible in the middle, which makes sense, but your sight will always move. And trying to counteract that movement will typically result in more movement or more twitchy movement. And a slower aiming movement, like a floating aim, is typically what you want to have and what you're looking for in your sight picture.
Well, the picture here is there's nothing between these two teams. Mexico taking on Italy for the bronze here in the compound mixed team competition at the second stage of the Hyundai Archery World Cup. And Miguel Becerra starting things off as he did in the first two ends with another 10.
When we get a look at the target, I want you to look at the right target that Miguel has been shooting and the group of holes that he's been shooting. He has pretty much only X's and then 110 that's just outside of the X. His group right now is phenomenal. Visibly disappointed with that. Which is okay, you can be disappointed with a shot, but you want to try to not make it resonate within the team. Not make it like too obvious for your team member that you're really disappointed, because it might affect the whole atmosphere in the team.
Anxiety is contagious. Yeah, you're right. It's a good group, isn't it?
Yeah, and he wasn't even happy with that shot. It went off low left, and he knew it was going to hit low left, which is ridiculous if you think about it, because they're shooting at 50 meters of distance, and his arrow is probably, what, 3 centimeters from the middle of the target? So it's insane that at the moment of release he already knew that was going to hit there.
Yeah,
but
just to put that in context, you're talking about almost fractions of a millimeter on the shooting line, making those 3 centimeters difference at the 50 meters down the range.
Yeah, and it's like when you're on the shooting line and when you get good at archery, you start to be good at judging where your arrow is going to hit. And it doesn't feel like it's a couple millimeters. It feels like it's more than that. But you just get so used to a certain movement and to a certain rhythm of muscle activation that if it doesn't match up, you'll feel it. But it's so difficult to put that into context.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a struggle for me to see the target at 50 metres at my age, to be honest with you. So being able to predict where an arrow is going to go, I've got no chance. There's nothing between these two teams here, but you talked about that consistency of Miguel Becerra. Is he potentially the difference in this match?
I think right now he is what's keeping the Mexican team together. Not to say that Andrea is shooting badly.
She's consistently hitting 9s.
Yeah.
Every single shot's been a 9.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not bad, but in a different situation, if she had a different teammate, it probably would have been a problem. So.
By contrast, though, it's certainly not consistent. Well, in some respects, it is consistent from the Italians. Elia coming out with 9s at the beginning of every single end, and then shooting a 10 with his second arrow. The other way around for Elisa.
Yeah, so they're matching each other in score, which is more common than having one archer shooting purely 10s and one archer shooting purely 9s. But yeah, it'll result in the same thing. If you shoot like if you shoot 10s half the time and 9s half the time, it doesn't matter who does it. It's still a tight score.
So staying perfect so far, Miguel Becerra with his 7th consecutive 10 in this match. And first 10 for Andrea. So we asked whether it was going to be Miguel that makes the difference. Will some 10s from Andrea be the difference for Mexico?
They're both breaking the curse right now of, or their consistent loop of shooting the same score every time.
We've got a heck of a match on our hands here. Just one arrow per archer left in the regulation ends of the match.
I'm truly impressed with those 8 arrows that Miguel just shot. Not only a perfect score, but also like no doubt about it.
10. Perfect
A
score.
perfect score for the Mexicans to finish things off with a 154. Some serious pressure on Freinen and Rona now. 2 10s required to force a shoot off.
10.
There's one. Are they going to finish with a perfect as well? They're going to need to.
I do love a shoot off.
Big pressure on this one.
Oh, there it is.
Pops it into the 10 like there was absolutely no doubt. Elisa Rona securing a tied score with the Mexican pairing of Andrea and Miguel Becerra. So all square. We just have confirmation of the scores. I think that's pretty clear. 4 10s for Mexico, 4 10s for Italy. And a chef, you love a shoot-off.
I do love a shoot-off, and the shoot-off that we're going to see is 1 arrow each archer. So an archer from Italy will start off, then Mexico will shoot 1 arrow, Italy will shoot their second arrow, then Mexico will shoot their second arrow. Highest score wins, and in the case of a tied score, it's all about who is closest to center.
So you've got to watch closely from the very first arrow to stay in the picture of who is likely to take this third step on the podium here in the compound mixed team competition. Big pressure on that final shot from Elisa Rona, but she took it in her stride. Nothing separated the teams throughout the match. Matched on scores right the way through each of the 4 ends. And Miguel and his sister will pair up. They'll shoot second. I know I've asked this question many times before, but I'm going to ask it again, Chef. Do you want to go first or second?
Well, me specifically, I would like to go second, because then you know what you have to shoot. Not that that should make a difference, but to me it would. The other side of things is if you shoot first and you shoot a really good arrow, you put a lot of pressure on the other side. So there's 2 ways of thinking about it.
You definitely prefer to go second.
Yeah, for me, second position was the more chill position.
Well, they're looking pretty chilled there, the brother-sister pairing of Miguel and Andrea Becerra.
Well, Miguel has been shooting 8 shoot-offs, essentially. Like, he's... when it comes down to close to center, he's really good at that, we've seen.
So far today, it certainly seems that way. So clearing the target face, and Chef, I'd hate to say it, but you might well be able to see. Looks like there's a little bit of rain in the air.
As long as it's not the same amount of rain that we've had earlier this week, I think it should be fine.
No risk of Chef running around checking the archer's underpants. That'll only really make sense if you watched our preview show where Chef was asking some of the athletes and coaches how wet it really was, and they were saying that they were absolutely soaked through all the way through to their socks and pants. So here we go, shoot off for the bronze medal.
Quick and easy, maybe not the closest to center shot he's done this match, which, I mean, says a lot. Andrea made a bit of a mistake there, stepping onto the line, but it's alternate shooting, so Italy goes first.
Frenyan not happy with that, knows that that could be the difference between making the podium and not. Another 10 and this is done.
9.
Drops low into the 9. So a 10 required to match the score. And there is definitely room.
Yeah, anything in the X-ring will do it. Or she has to be really close to the X-ring. But her arrow needs to be closer than Miguel's arrow.
9.
Gone high into the 9. Disappointing result for the Italians, but the Becerra brother-sister combo taking the bronze medal in a very, very tight contest. And in the end, it was Miguel that made the difference.
Yeah, he did what he had been doing the rest of the match, shoot a 10.